Eremos is more than a name. It's a way of life. It's our sanctuary, our escape from the noise, and our connection to the deeper meaning of our lives. It's about finding joy in the outdoors, seeking growth, and leaving the world a better place than we found it. Welcome to Elevate and Explore, a podcast where we dive into the beauty of nature, self-discovery, and the endless possibilities that come with living intentionally. Welcome to our journey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Elevate and Explore. I'm Ryan.
I'm Aaron.
And we look forward to joining you guys tonight with some great topics, conversation with the wonderful Johan Coppers. So Johan, welcome. Nice to meet you.
Good to see you guys. Yeah, just so you know, it's Johan. So I always have a joke like you're saying what's up to a guy named Han. You're like, yo, Han. But it's a pleasure to be here and to connect with you guys. Oh, you're good. It happens all the time. It's no worries at all.
Well, now I just noticed that I just noticed that on it says Coppers, but everywhere else you go by Johan Danno. What do you prefer?
So Danno is my stage name and my artist name. Coppers was my board name, and I was gonna change it, but I kept it because I'm developing a deeper relationship with my father, and that's his name. So just awesome. But so artist name, stage name Danno, personal name Coppers, but usually I go by Johan Danno.
Cool. Okay, excellent. Well, if you don't mind, let's jump into it. If you don't mind, just a quick introduction of who you are, what you do, and maybe a little quick story about how you got to where you're at now.
Yeah, so it's like so interesting. A lot of my life, I live in a space where we have to understand our story. So to share it, it's like to share the highlights are kind of like a bit. I've been somebody that's been on a path for a long time since I was a kid, and I'm from Florida. I sold everything, moved to Australia when I was 22. At that time, I lived many different lives. Some would call me a wizard or magician simply because like I love to create things out of thin air. Like I do marketing, music, whatever you want to label it. I just view it as shifting what started as depression into expression and a life and a lifestyle that I get to work with people I love, do what I love, and trying to make a better world.
Excellent. Well, just to highlight there two things. You mentioned, moving to Australia. What influenced that?
So I grew up here in Florida, and then it was an interesting thing where I was over in California for a bit. That was my first time being out there, and I met all these Australians, and they were just amazing people. We'd have so many incredible chats, and like they were inviting me to go over, and just a lot of my life, I've realized that there's just moments that, we can't connect the dots looking forward, only back. And it was I think it was 2010, 2009. I just graduated college in Orlando at UCF. And when I graduated, the global financial crisis hit. So at that time, the reason I bring this up is that I was trying to figure out what to do. And I was like, all right, well, I have these friends in Australia keep asking me to go to Australia. And everyone's like, how they go? And I'm like, 1 year to life. They're like, that sounds like a prison sentence. So I'm like, well, it is a penal colony. So, and like, I went there 1 year and it was an amazing adventure. I wound up staying for almost 10 years. And there's a whole story to unpack there. But so I do music, songwriter, musician, and just talk with people like you guys to do marketing and things online for a better world.
So you move out to you said you moved out to California, and that's where you met some of these Australians. What kind of chat did you start off with before just saying, I want to move to Australia?
Well, it was interesting. So when they got to know us, like it was really funny because what happened is we were in college and my friend's like, hey man, I'm going to California to be a wakeboard instructor at Pally Adventure Camp. So it was a great camp, like for like uber rich kids. And he's like, yeah, I'm a wakeboard instructor. I'm like, David, how is that possible? Like, you don't even know how to wakeboard. He's like, well, they don't know that. So he's like, apply for the jobs. So anyways, we apply for these jobs, and like, so we're at the cable park, and like, we're hiring people. We're learning how to like wakeboard, and we get all the way out there, and like, we figured out like how to wakeboard, and I got boating license, and we met all these Aussies that came over, and they're like, sorry, like, mate, you guys have balls of steel. Like came all the way out here to do that. Like that's badass. He's like, you should go to Australia, mate. And that's my terrible Australian accent. But like when he said that, like it dawned on me. I'm like, he's right. Like, and I was talking to them, and when they came to visit me in Orlando, I just realized I was like, like I don't know, I had like Australian shirt when I was a kid. It's somewhere on the other side of the world. Like, why not? And sold everything and went over there. And like, I mean, it's a crazy country. So many stories after being there 10 years. But it's my second home. I love that place.
That's a really big leap of faith to just, sell everything, take a chance, and just move to a completely new country, don't really know anything, probably didn't really know anybody. When you went out, were you scared or worried, or did you just have faith that, everything was just going to work out?
Well, it was interesting where like, so the truth is I've learned over the years a bit on this path of like, healing, call it transformation work, medicine work, whatever you want to call it. And through this time, what I realized is there's so much of our life where we're running to something and from something because things are happening and we put so much weight on something else. Okay. I was like, things are not going really good here. I don't know what to do. So I just saw Australia as this opportunity, like this moonshot, as whatever you want to call it. That's where, I went over there and to put it like simply, I wanted to see how big my balls were, and I wasn't sure how long I'd last.
Yeah.
And from the moment I touched down, like it was just a beautiful place. Like, it really captured my heart. The people took me in. I experienced a different culture, and like I definitely say a lot of my musical influence came from my time there because I was busking out in the parks and stuff. So I started in Melbourne, and they make fun of you, right? Because if you go there and you say Melbourne, like, can you say Melbourne, Florida, right? You go to Australia, you say Melbourne, they make fun of you. They'll put you around like, everybody come check this out. He says Melbourne. Yeah, they were making fun of me, and I'm like, all right, so Melbourne. But yeah, and then maybe I went to Gold Coast, and the whole time, I think I have like an amazing upbringing with my mom, and we were just always kind of like to that spirit of like, if you're a good person, if you're respectful, if you're smart, and if you're adventurous, like, anything's possible. And we can spend so much of our everyday life. Like I just recently did a trip with my last partner across the US. Me and her traveled all across the US. Like, and the reason I did the trip originally was I was like, they spend so much time just driving between, parts of Florida and go nowhere. Right? I just go through the US. And the same as Australia. Like, we're doing so many flights up to see family in New Jersey. Well, what if I went on this trip? And my brother in Hawaii, he told me, Andy, he's like, it's have the courage to take the first step. Once you take that first step, that's considered the next step. You don't need to know the rest. And for him it was Hawaii, and for me it was Australia.
Now you talk about, testing to see how big your big cojones are, if you will.
Yeah.
That leap of faith of, you think there's something out there. It's like, you just got to jump for it, and, no holdback. So it's like, let's test and see really how much we've got here. I thought that's really cool, and I do want to touch on that again. But one thing I do want to clear up, at least as we start this discussion, is early on you said you were just redeveloping your relationship with your father, and then it sounded like maybe that have you had some confrontation or difficulty there in your lifetime without a dad?
Yeah. So I would say I've been rewiring my relationship that I made up in my experience of being a child while he was being a man. He had a business, he had things he was navigating, and my mom, like, doing the best she could to raise us kids. And, it originally was therapy and a lot of work. And there was a time when just me as a man, I had a lot of anger, a lot of justified resentment, and feeling like just like jealousy of people who had a good father relationship, sorta. And over the last many years, I've been so blessed to sit with a lot of brothers and men's circles and groups and realize like even men with like fathers were absent. Like there's so much more. And talking to different men, even though me and my father were at ends, I just once he got a stroke and he wasn't well. it kind of dawned on me, this big man I saw, this big stubborn man was, like frail and he was human. And I talked to brothers and they gave me the perspective because even though I was angry and I still had this anger, he's like, you never know what's going to happen when your parents go and you don't want to have that. And it was crazy, like opening that space up, having conversations with him, and just there's lots to talk. I'm back there, but the main thing is that I got to, instead of looking for him to give me recognition or appreciation, I gave it to him. Like instead of him giving it to me, I gave it to him.
Okay.
And I realized that, like we had these really hard conversations at times because I wanted to just get past the anger of like, you weren't this or that, and get to the love of like, you're here. And, like, I want to put this past because wherever you are, you're in my life. Let's have a relationship. And yeah, I could definitely say we just had a great chat. And I talked the other day. I got a great relationship with both my parents. So feel really
That is
blessed.
that is
Beautiful.
amazing, and you know, being able to be adventurous and kind of travel and see some of your life on your own, but still being humble enough to say, you got to go back and mend some past wounds. That's incredible. I grew up without a father, an absent father, if you will, and I had to learn a lot of that stuff out. And it's just kind of now coming into fruition. It's like you see the men out there, you see these good fathers, and you see the example of the type of man that you may want to be, and fitting that into a very soft, genuine, giving type person. That takes some work. I mean, men are often revered as this bull or stag deer that has to carry a set of antlers and show off and big chest type thing, but it's a lot more than that. And to sit there and make an amend to try and develop that relationship on your part really speaks volumes for you. It speaks volumes for him being willing to accept that and come back. Especially in that very frail moment of maybe there was some past damage or trauma there, and getting past that is truly incredible.
Well, it was interesting because what happened is it was actually it's 1 year pretty much nearly to the date, my birthday last year in May. We were traveling and the way it came about was unexpected because I had a previous business partnership and I learned the value of the contracts, even if you have written agreements, and I did, and it wasn't. And I'm will just say professionally, I should have had something in contract. And because it didn't, I felt like I kind of got left out of something that, I worked hard to build with a client. So the only reason I'm bringing that part of the story up is all that matters is my dad had built $1 million business when I was a kid with these boats and had partners. And he also didn't have a contract that was written. And he built the business up. And when he did all the work, when it came down to the money and it came down to the thing, things changed and they cut him out of the business. And that's what led to him drinking and, leaving my parents and sharing a bit there simply because I got to, over the time, take a step in his shoes and kind of sit in like what I would do just to forgive him. And what I realized when I lost my business and that opportunity and I was broke on my back on the road and he called to talk to me, we connected so deeply because I could feel that wound. He could feel
Mhm.
it. And I just cried and we talked and he gave me that recognition I always never thought I'd get of him saying like, well, you're doing this music and if anybody could do it, you can. And I believe in you. And, this business is, you just worked so hard to build the dream up for somebody else. And it was a nightmare. He's like, but son, like, you have the ability to do it. If there's anybody that can do it, you. And like, it was like the lowest part of my life in a way, because I felt like I lost this thing, but at the same time, I got something so profound. And just forgiveness is such a powerful thing. I feel like for understanding that, our parents, they just did the best they could. They were, they were parents as long as we were alive. They didn't have like some extra training and like a lot of
Yeah,
them had extra more. And I think as we get older, the world is changing so much. The best we could do is be kind to ourselves and how to heal that relationship that's kind to us and kind to them.
I think that's one of the key components of any relationship anywhere is forgiveness. It's recently I went to church and I had a very powerful spiritual moment of of all the things I've screwed up, of all the things I've done wrong, I can still look to Bible, word, people. You go to church around a good community and everybody loves you for who you are as you are, regardless of what happened in the past. And that is a ideal relationship. And if we are in a romantic relationship, forgiveness is powerful, if not one of the most powerful things, just as much as communication, trust, or loyalty. And then in business, there's got to be some forgiveness or grace in some of our decisions. Aaron and I will possibly disagree someday. We haven't had too many disagreements yet, but it'll come up, and it is a bigger power than what is going on in the moment to have to be able to set that aside and be reasonable, and then continue to move forward with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I most definitely agree that I was once told that forgiveness is for giving, forgiveness, and I feel like the things I've learned over the years is like emotional sovereignty. When we understand that whatever happens in life, like it's usually just an opportunity for us to kind of just check in with like what we're feeling, name it, and sit with that emotion and ask ourselves like, what do I really want to experience? What do I really want to have? Because if we're angry at somebody and we're resenting them or we're blaming them, like we're putting power outside of ourselves, of an emotion that's in ourselves. But if we, like you're saying, like I think God, spirit, whatever belief you have, it's so beautiful to have something that turns you to just surrender and say, I forgive. Like, for this is for me giving to you because I can't carry this anymore. I don't know what to do, but I know that with your grace and with your divinity and with your light, you can show me the way. Let me be the way and get out of the way. It's one of the lyrics I have for my song Yahweh. It's that grace of God, of understanding that life doesn't happen to us, it happens through us. So
that's beautifully put. Thank you for that.
Like that, yeah. I've got a question for you. So it seems like you have a relationship with your brother, your mom, rekindling with your dad. I also read about your grandma, that she had a big impact on your life. I read your tattoo, please keep well, keep playing, and keep loving. I absolutely love that.
yeah.
So she was a big influence on, the reason you do music.
Yeah, so I was in my teens, right? And it took years for me to understand it, but long story short, after my parents got divorced and I moved towns, I was in this new town and I was kind of the outsider, right? So I started hanging out with more like the gother freaks. This is like on seventh grade, and the reason I'm bringing this up is they were all depressed and sad and down. So I decided I had to be. So I got really down and depressed.
Yeah.
I'm having a dad, all this stuff, anyway, I got this rabbit hole, and my grandmother, bless her soul, like called my mom was like, like, I'm gonna send you a check every month. Go out and she'll learn a music instrument. I had played violin, I played piano, played lots of instruments as a kid, but not anything steady. And she was a concert pianist, and was the audio cutting out?
Yeah, it's
a little bit.
Your earbud.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's good, I think.
Yes.
All right, awesome. Can you still hear me?
Yep, I gotcha.
Yep.
All right, I wonder because I think the headphone died.
Yep. Technology. It's a wonderful thing.
All right, so anyways,
No,
finish the story, keep going back. So I'll circle back. So I was a teenager. I would say I was about like 12, 13, grew up in Delray. And I had, just got into these depression funks. And when I was getting really down and low, and like my mom was really worried and she was traveling a lot, and talked to my grandmother. And my grandmother, dad, bless her soul, was a concert pianist. So she's like, I better write you a check every month to go teach Johan and get him a lesson, piano or guitar, because any child with the gift of music is never alone. And everybody needs an outlet because, having an expression, a way to express yourself is how to deal with depression. And it's one of the courses of Great Depression to expression, because she taught me that at a young age. And, I went through a lot of emotions and things were changing, but I channeled it into music since that age, and as my outlet, like my way to feel things and to put it out there without having to like suppress it and then have it come out at people, or like all these other ways that weren't really helpful. So
that's beautiful. That's awesome that she gave you that opportunity and helped push you into that, to find something you absolutely love now. That that's music is pretty much your life at this point. So that's so cool that you're able to have her, someone you love, guide you into that.
Well, and she was that was pretty amazing. Like my grandparents, my granddad was World War II, he was in Pearl Harbor, worked at the trade centers as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he worked hard, and she was a stay-at-home concert pianist, raised, my mom and brother and sister. And they were of that generation. And it was, she was Irish, so I get that Irish side. And
Yeah.
she drank a Guinness. We drink a Guinness nearly every year, especially on Irish Paddy's Day. And she was just this beautiful life. And we would write letters back and forth. That's where I got this tattoo. Is we would write letters back and forth. And just when the last letter she wrote to me was this one, because she got
Mm-hmm.
dementia. And that's why I wanted to get it, because it felt like, it was the last bit of her really getting with me. So,
Yeah.
and just a little side note, it's kind of cool. When she died, I had never played piano really at all. And when she passed, she had a baby grand piano. And I remember I played her piano in her house, and I could feel her moving my hand.
Beautiful.
I started crying, bro. And I felt like God in spirit. And I promised her, I said, okay, I don't own a piano, but I promise you that I'm not going to lose this. So I played every piano I've seen around the world, in bars, museums, nightclubs, anything you name, over 90 different pianos all around the world since she's passed in the last 7 years. So,
Wow. I love that. I love that you had the opportunity to have a close relationship like that with your grandparents. There's unfortunately a lot of people don't get to be able to do that. Fortunately, I was blessed. My grandfather, he just passed a year and a half ago, but he was, one of the biggest influences in my life. I spent a lot of time with him. He started the business, I work for my family business. He started back in '64. So I'm, working on carrying that legacy. But for about the past 10 years since I got out of college, when I was younger, I didn't spend too much time with him. And, I kind of regretted that a little bit. So when I got out of college, I made a pact that I was going to spend as much time with him as I can. So, we have a place down in South Jersey. I would take him down there every weekend. We'd fish, all weekend together. He'd be in the office, once he couldn't drive any longer, I'd pick him up 2-3 days a week, and he'd come in the office and, didn't really do much, but he was just so happy to be there. And it just was so great, being around him and hearing all of his stories and hearing his wisdom. And, he's the most positive person I ever met in my life. And it really wore off of me. And I try and carry that everywhere I go and keep that spirit going. One of the things he would always say, any room he would walk into, he would say, if someone asked him how he was, he'd say, I'm absolutely, positively fantastic. And I try and carry that with me and, take that energy. So, I completely feel you, carrying that energy of, your grandma playing the piano. It's beautiful. I absolutely love that.
yeah, and I love what you're sharing there, because it's a bit like kind of that's what's been healing my relationship with my father. I think most men, it's me, just instead of being bitter or anything or whatever relationship we have, it's just kind of checking in of like, okay, well, what would that feel like to be that kind of person or have that experience or have that relationship? And how can I take that? Like if I see somebody that's a family member or any member that has something like a part that I respect and appreciate, their playful spirit, whatever it is, how can I embody that for everyone, sort of thing?
Yeah.
No, I think that's a fantastic point of, we wander through life, and like you mentioned with some of the depression and, trying to figure out relationships, and then also being adventurous and wandering is like, okay, once you realize it's bigger than yourself, now you see these people and you're like, well, I want the life that they have. And oftentimes it's not the wealth and it's not the things, it's not the house, it's nothing other than the personality of the type of people they are. And when you realize they're kind and giving and generous and just nice to be around, you want to emulate that. You want to imitate exactly what that is. And it's the mantra of surrounding yourself with good people and having positive role models. If it's a family member or maybe it's just some random stranger we meet, that is powerful. And that's, one of the ultimate goals of being able to share that kindness, generosity, and respect, and even some of that positive, just uproar when you walk into a room, somebody's excited to see you, and that is one of the best feelings on earth, whether you're a musician or whether you're in business, or just walking into a room and somebody's excited to see you. That is probably greater feeling on earth than any drug, drink, or synth related combined. It's powerful.
It's funny you say that, because that was a wake up call that, years ago. I think I was like 15, 16, and I call on my brother Andy. He's not a blood brother, but he's like pretty much like he saved me from a life of like, like I was on the path with the wrong people, half of with or who are not here, bless them. But anyways, just circling back, like he was really getting clear when I was younger and telling me like, you gotta have clarity of what really matters to you and who you are, and he's like, you don't need to dumb yourself down to fit in. You can feel into it to stand out. And I'm trying to think, I had a better thought I was put together. I hate it when you have like a train of thought and then you lose it there.
Yeah.
But just circling back, yeah, like I remember when I was growing up, it was a big thing that, I don't know. It was, he kind of helped me see that in life, like we can choose our struggles and we can choose to be the victim, and, things happen to us, and that's normal. He's like, but if you can have something to strive for that matters to you and something to go for, the best thing to do is to, like you just said, emulate, like look to people around that could just be your shelter, your rock. Wait till you're not sure, because depression, anxiety, all those things, they're a part of life. Like I used to, I think, things aren't easy, and now I welcome them. I had a conversation the other day and I told a friend, I'm like, I realized that most of my business comes from problems. Like, like people's problems in their business, problems with their health, their problem with this. And we alchemize it into, this is my business, Soulpreneur Alchemy, we alchemize it into something. And I learned that in my youth, that the only reason I can do that is, in the morning when I wake up, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm listening to books, I'm feeding my brain, I'm constantly evolving, because I learned that as a skill from seeing my friend who was like, just working his tail off to be able to pay for his master's degree, get in shape and do his business. And that was amazing, because I didn't have any, most of my other friends they're all getting on drugs, routines, like they were partying, we're in Florida, like, like it was recklessness. And I just share that because, there's a lot happening in the world. And if anybody's watching this, like, I would say is if you've had anybody that's ever inspired you, anybody that's ever really done something for you, like just reach out to them, check in that they're okay, because we're losing a lot of people to a lot of things. And, I think people who are light in our life, like, why not give it back? So I'm saying that I'm definitely going to call my friend. He just had a kid in Hawaii. And I say that because, it's, we're talking about dads. And I've realized in my life that when I healed the pain of like the absence of not having a father, I stopped focusing so much on that, and I could see all the other men and women over my entire life that filled that hole, that filled that gap, that supported me, that loved me, that made me into who I am and made me that full story. And I just pray that everyone can see that their trauma healed is their medicine. The pain that they have, that weight that weighs them down, like that is not your burden. Like it is just the materials to see your blessings, And that's why, like I have so many mentors and people I listen to every day to keep me grounded, whether it's Alan Watts, Ram Dass, Eckhart Tolle, or all these different people, because I really feel like we live in such a critical time to break the generational chains from previous, because the knowledge we have, but to get clear in our worth and who we are, to love ourselves, to set us up for success by surrounding ourselves with people, getting clear in our heads so we know where we're going, so that the world moving forward, it's not in the hands of people who just care about money and profit, because you can't eat money and you can't eat coal, you can't drink oil. But like we said, spiritual, family, and all this stuff, like I firmly believe in a much more beautiful world that is being created, because, we're having this conversation, people are actively doing it. And if we keep their light going and keep everybody supported with that, like, there's a much more beautiful world we can create than the one we're worried about right now.
Yeah, for sure. And you bring up some great points there. Just talking about the world that we once knew is, I'm in construction industry, and I feel like every single day we're altering a new style, if you will. Like it's not the same construction that happened in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It's not the men go out and bust their butt and come home, and um, it's much more forgiving that we can be professionals, we can be adults, we can go be intact, have a good day at work regardless of problems. 99% of construction is solving a problem, whether it be a legitimate problem that the construction is going to solve, or it's an engineering thing, or it's a teamwork thing, it's a client thing, like you name it. That's all we do is solve problems. And in most every industry out there, we're solving problems. So welcoming the problems and being accepting to them and acknowledging that we are here as human beings to solve problems. That's one of the things that we are created for. That's why, the deer and the raccoons aren't out trying to be dentists. Like it is our job to accept that and also be able to control our emotions, control our minds, control our feelings and thoughts, to be able to do that in a light that we're not being diminishing, we're not being degrading, and we're not destroying what was put before us by others who have worked hard to bring it to us. I think that's some really great stuff. And especially just being there for others is, sometimes I mentioned this to Aaron right before the call, is I had this fantastic weekend in Florida. Somebody just openly invited me to come down, stay in their house, and go fishing. And I tried to pay for fuel. I tried to pay for food. I tried to help out wherever I could, thinking I was helping, but it had nothing to do with helping. It was about the moment of going and having a great day fishing. It was not about who's going to cover dinner, who's going to pay for fuel, who's going to do this. It was just giving back to somebody who appreciated it, right? So we take that, and now it's like with your music, I'm sure you're touching the lives of everybody out there who needs to hear something good. Our podcast is spreading words that probably somebody needs to hear, or our construction businesses are out solving problems that somebody wishes they would fix. And it's when we get into that mindset of giving back and being forgiving and being loving and generous, that's when the world changes.
Yeah, it's great you said that. Yeah, it's funny, in Australia there was a time where I was on tour there during COVID, and like my career was taking off and things were going really well. I remember I was in Tasmania, and this girl had my name on a shirt that said USA. There was like 1,000 people at this freaking Blues barbecue. I was like, like, then we got to Melbourne and COVID hit, and then I got stuck there. And when I lost my equipment and my laptop broke, I'd say all that because I had to make money. And a friend who's a musician got me to a brick labor. So I was a brick laborer and I was a builder, and I was working.
Nice.
And I broke my body. And the guy I worked with, I've been doing it for years. So he did it quick, fast, and easy, and just pushed us hard and like killed me every day. And I remember like the first day I was there, and then they were trying to break me. They thought I quit because they were just making fun of me. They're calling me a seppo, like, a septic tank, because I was an American and I was Australian over there. So they're like, they gave me all these jobs. I remember this big saw, and like, it's like the concrete saw, and its blade's huge. Anyways, they tell me how to cut the side, but then I have to cut it on this whole degree angle, and the thing's so heavy, and the blade's dull, and I got to do this long line. So, anyways, they decided to go out to look at a job, aka go to the bar, and so they thought I quit. Like they were just testing me to see if I quit. And I remember I went and did the side, and the whole thing flipped around, and I'm like, oh, I'm like sitting down shaking. I'm like looking at my phone for marketing jobs. I'm like, I get a marketing job. And I stopped and went, no, like, this is America. I'm American. I'm sick. So I did the whole job, and I finished. And I did a good job. The guys came back, and they were like, wow. And so I did want to do the job for another 4 months, different jobs. But I'll never forget when I worked that job. There's one thing I learned from my corporate job, because I used to have a big corporate job working for Deloitte. That's a whole different story. I left that to do music in 2014. And but I remember at my corporate job, I never forgot one of my bosses that stuck me for life. Everyone was going in big project, $1 million project. He just goes, look, I am tired of this. Nobody come with me with problems. I only want solutions. I only want solutions from now on. Like, if you have a problem, go find somebody who has the balls to have a solution. Otherwise, I don't want to see you. And I remember when I was at the job, I was like unconfident. I was shaking. That's why I got the job. I didn't have confidence in my marketing abilities or my mentorship or what I was worth. And then at that job site, like, you build your confidence up. And I remember at the time, I was building this place, and we're doing all like the what's it called? The stuff that's the baseline you do that smells terrible before you put the paint down and do it like weatherproofing outside. It stuff was sticky. Anyways, I'll never forget
It's hard.
this way everything changed because I was working and like getting like, I don't know, I was just totally a wreck. And as I looked out, two of my friends drove by in these really nice cars, and they were doing marketing. And I was like thinking to myself, I'm like, those guys don't even care about the people
Uh-huh.
that they work with, and they're driving these nice cars. So that's what I've just been on this journey ever since. And yeah, building this marketing business, helping entrepreneurs like in small businesses, alchemize all those fears and build businesses. And I just remember like that time was really impactful. Like, I recommend to anybody, if you're depressed or you're going through something, like, go out and do some manual labor. Like, if you're a guy, go do some freaking manual labor. Like, build something, like break something, like, and just build your confidence up, because that was medicine in itself.
No, that's it's funny you say that, because I've lived in the corporate America for quite a while, and I said, I don't like this. It's too much. And I think some of the only good days I had is when I got to go out in the field and actually, build stuff, break stuff, try something new. And when I started my own business, it's like, okay, well, now you get to, test and see how big your nuts are. Go out and try something new, test yourself, realize you can't give up, you can't quit. And that physical labor side, it's like whenever you're having those real bad days and you just get in a funk and you got earbuds in, and you're out just busting butt, long days, no food, it cleanses you. It is it is good for you sometimes, but every single day doing it for somebody else, maybe not so much. So there's a good even balance there. And I think we talk just like it's a good drink or cigars or whatever you smoke. I mean, it all comes in moderation. Everything about life is in moderation. So the hard work side, just as much as some of that indulgence is the other things that you like to do.
That definitely, I would say, like, over the years being in Australia, because I know we do this show that you talk about outdoor adventure, and I think we were talking a little bit, Aaron, about this during COVID. We're in Australia, we had the lockdowns, and it was really hectic. And it was really funny because they were like social distance. Because you social distance. So we decided to get like four-wheel drive cars and go through the middle of the desert, middle of Central Australia, away from everybody. Like, we'd be in the middle of the desert, and it'd be like 3 days till you get to anybody, smallest town. And I just bring us up, so travel all through the deserts, and it was amazing. And I grew up in the beach, and I was the surfer boy. And I don't know about you guys, but that was my first. I kind of went through Arizona, but that was proper desert. And it's just, there's something about that energy, and that wildness. And we went through all of Australia, Uluru, and we went all the way to the tip. And I'm saying how big your balls are, because this is the biggest balls moment I've ever had in my life. And true story, it's so funny. Ever Jay was with me. Anyways, got all the way to the northern tip, and there's so many crocodiles. And crocodiles are the apex predator. You can't see them anywhere. Like, they just blend in. And I say the story because I remember we went to this watering hole and I wanted to swim, and we've been in the desert for weeks. So I was like, it's completely covered. And my friend's like, oh, you go in the water? He's like, yeah. So he's watching, and then he pulls a machete out and then gives me a machete. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, you got to put it between your teeth. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, put this between your teeth when you go to the water to go for a swim, because if the gator gets you, you only have like that much time where you can react. If he does a death roll, like, that's your best bet. And I'll watch you. And I'm like, okay. Yep. Sounds good. There's like a stick, you're freaking out, but then after you're in for a little bit, you mellow out. It's just like the first little bit, you're like, oh, what? Because you're from Florida. You're like, I'm Florida, I'm badass. And you get to Australia, and they're like, oh yeah, it's Australia. Everything really here.
That's awesome.
So what other kind of we'll call it outback adventures do you have while you were down there?
Well, when I went But I was first to Australia for the year. It was interesting. So I traveled through Australia. And when I first got there, my first job, I was supposed to work in a meat locker plant. So like moving, like cold meat and stuff down in Melbourne. And when I first landed in the Gold Coast of Australia, I got to Surfers Paradise, and literally like the first day there, this chick tried to sell me on party tours. And I used to run bars in Orlando, and I was like, "Look, hon, like you're beautiful, but your pitch is a little too sleazy. Got a little R's. Like I recommend this, but so I'm giving her pointers." Like I need to meet her boss. At the end of the day, I got an apartment right in downtown, managing this VIP limousine nightclub for 4 nights a week, and a phone and everything. So like that was my first year, and we had a whole business there, and I worked with there, and like nightclubs. It was a wild party, and that's when I kind of realized I wanted to go back to get my master's degree, get my life together. I wanted, get it. And when I was switching visas over, this is the crazy story. I found out I had to be out of the country, and I'm like, what? So then, like, I had to go to New Zealand to my friend's farm, and then right as I'm going to New Zealand to the farm, the guy who I'd worked with the business, pretty much told me, he's like, yeah, like, we're gonna have to cut you. I need to take the phone back and the place back. So I'm like, oh. And then the girlfriend I was at the time, she's like, I'm breaking up with you. I'm seeing somebody else. I'm like, oh. So then I'm like, then I got this ticket, and I'm like, so I got $150. I'm going to New Zealand, and I'm coming back to no girlfriend, no place, no anything, and then I'm gonna go to school here. And I'm like, interesting. And I was on a country farm in New Zealand, like I was feeding like freshwater eels by hand. Like we'd be playing beer pong, like with the horses coming in. Like I'd be hungover, and we'd go to the top of like the mountains, this fresh water. And I remember it was so funny. I'm like from Florida, so I'm like shaking. I'm like, I'm not going in. And the girls, the Kiwi girls, like, come on, mate, you got fucking little balls, jump in the water. And then they cannonball, and then you're like, all right, well, I gotta go in. And then like, so then like, but like the second you hit that water in the mountains, like, just no hangover. It was, and at that time in New Zealand, it was like so good. Like I like just being in nature around a family, like they were so loving, and it like really helped me ground. And when I got back, like I lived on my friend's, living room floor, and I hustled and worked to get mine, to get cab fare to get my master's, and got it up to get a car. And then like when I got my master's, I did IT and business, and I worked extra hard to get like the best job because I had to pay my debt back. And I just always had this drive when I was over there in Australia. It was a bit to survive, and then it became a bit to just prove myself because I'm like already seen how far I can come. And I've heard this in personal development. It's like whatever you're trying to achieve in mastery, any business or anything, you're at first you're like, okay, how far till I get there? You're just asking yourself, how far, how much more, how far till I get there? And then eventually, as you're in your business, whatever you're doing, you're growing and developing as a person, and you're changing, you're evolving. Then eventually that question never, you lose that because you're like, everything I get, there's another one. There's another one. And then your question is instead, well, how far can I go? And that's a different mindset. And I'm really grateful Australia was, the people took me in. I view it as family there, the people there. Like, I highly recommend if anybody ever thinks going, like, go. Like, it's beautiful. I'll give you tips. And I'll be going back, because the way they live down there, it's very forward thinking in ways, holistic, very outdoors, and the music, it's very much, yeah, it's a great culture. Kind of like if California and Florida had a baby and then mixed in a bit of England, and then like, put in a pot and then added their own culture and a little Canadian. It's its own melting pot. So
that's fascinating. Now, you mentioned the, how much further do I have to go it's always a question that's on my mind. It's like, well, how much more do I have to do? And when you get to a point that you realize that you enjoy what you're doing, it's always just one more. Well, I'll do it one more time. And you like doing it, so it's just one more time, one more time. And that always got me in trouble. I drank very heavily for a long time, and there was never enough. And now, I've gotten to a point where it's just one more adventure. It's one more time with friends, one more time with family, and having more fun doing that replaces all of the partying and crazy world that you used to live. And uh, this changing and growth in life is just magical. I'm so
Yeah,
excited,
yeah,
man.
I agree with you. I cut alcohol out, and I think the key is just make a life that's full of substance, and you don't need to be anti-substances. You know, like those just are filling that gap. You know?
So, your music. What's your music background, or what type of music? If you have a genre, or can you give us a little bit of your music?
Yeah. So the music I do is it's kind of like singer-songwriter. It's a lot of my music. When you listen to the lyrics, it's said to be written from, from your head to your heart. So I would say influences. I got a bit of mixed influences from, Pearl Jam, Eddie Vedder to Jack Johnson, more current stuff. People would say Jason Mraz or John Butler or Trevor Hall or Naco, Zach Brown, David, all these names. But what it is my music is a combination of the things I've grown up with. So I grew up in Florida listening to roots rock, reggae. Then my dad lives in New Orleans, so I love soul and blues, and I got into that. And then when I got to Australia, that was more Americana and sort of folk. So I kind of got a mix of those. But the best is I usually do freestyle hip hop as well, and I mix that in. And that all started the hip hop and freestyle started when I was in college. A friend of mine, Raymond, he helped me when I met my freshman year. He'd stand on this soapbox and start singing and talking every day. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is he introduced me to the understanding of music as an expression and a medicine, an expression of a moment, a feeling, something that we're going through. And the more passionate you are of it, the more someone can connect to it. And so my music kind of follows into that. Each song's a little different. I'm in the process. I've just started producing my own stuff and my own music, and I got a whole medicine album. It's kind of like a spiritual album that I'm in the current process of recording, and I'm producing it myself. So it's a super awesome process, very challenging, but I'm loving it.
Now,
And
Excellent.
out
yes, I
of
play guitar and I play guitar, piano, and sing. So far, I do drums
beautiful.
and stuff a little bit, but not amazing.
Now, out of all the songs you wrote, what's your favorite song that you've done?
So the song I haven't released it yet. I'm about to. It's called "Current of Love" and also "Yahweh." Those are new songs because they've really come out of the last, the last couple of years of this travel and journey I've been on in life. In regards to people want to look up my songs and music, the number one song that's been really popular is "Sunrise." It's a folk song, and that song was written when I wrote, like, woke up in sunrise. And it's just the stream of thought of those emotions we have between our head and our heart. And there's different songs, like my song Fall in Line. I got a music video for that. And that was when I quit my corporate job. That's the first single and first song ever released. And yeah, Rescue Me's got like a deeper kind of like soul bluesy kind of boyier feel. And we recorded that music video here in West Palm Beach, Florida. The last song I just released, Ego and Soul, got music video with like waterfalls and fire twirlers up in Mount Nathan, Australia. That was super fun. So those are kind of the songs I'd say. Um, my favorite, one of them would be it's on my new album that I just released within. It's called Holding You Close. It's got some girls, it's Americana, and the girls on it are the Mona Lisa Tribe. It's kind of my favorite because it's a really good lovey song. And I like to listen to it every once in a while. For me personally, but the fan favorite has always been Fire Burn Low.
Fireburn
So
Low.
that's
Okay.
kind of like there's lots more to dive in. Feel like I could give like a spiel for each song because I released each one and I've had as an independent artist, it's been amazing. Like I hired a publicist, Katie Kitty Bang Bang in Australia, and she taught me a lot. And through that, I got to be on NBC6 live and talk about my music. And I've been on blogs and magazines over the years. And my song Rescue Me was picked up in Turkey. I remember I had followers in Europe. And over the years, music has taught me so much, which is, it's like I don't have millions of streams or followers yet. I haven't made it. And most of the times when I'm touring, I'm barely breaking even. But what matters most is on the tours and travel is you start talking to people and they're like, oh my God, I've listened to your album, been in my car every day, or the job site. Like I had a friend of mine go in Australia, he's like, every time the guys go to the job site, they have to listen to your album. It's the only album I got in the car, and all the guys know all the words. And I went there, they all bought me a beer in middle of a country pub, middle of nowhere, and I think that music taught me, it's like we as individuals, we go through things in our life, and each one of us go through things, we all do. And we have little ways that we connect to it. And whether you do film or writing or a podcast, whatever art you do, I'm really grateful I have music, because when I create it, it's like you get to reshare that moment with people and they open up to you. Like, I guess it's how Jim Carrey said, for him, he loves what he does, because he's like, I'm so blessed. I've done something where people come and give the best of themselves to me. And I've always thought of that, like as music and artists, we're giving spells. Words are spellings. So when I was writing, I was like, I want people to sing and have things that give them hope, that help them, that give them resolution, that give them joy. That is a blessing. So that's kind of what I'm going with my music,
Beautiful.
Now, you had talked a couple of times about some marketing and some, I think you mentioned a little bit of networking there, but obviously you and Aaron met through a networking event. So, just high level, what is, you had mentioned a couple businesses as well. What is your primary business or means of income as you're a traveling man across the country who loves music, or across the world rather, who loves music?
Yeah, so it kind of happened organically. It's at the end of the scheduled time.
We have a couple more minutes. We can keep going. If you have time, we can keep going.
Awesome. So it's actually pretty cool. So it came about because when I was building courses, online courses, sales funnels. I'm certified, and I built one in Australia, and I bring that up because when I lost this agreement out with my client, because we built the course 6-week program, built the sales funnel, I did all the emails, follow up, and it worked. Everything worked. So and she's great. Great product. Anyways, say that whole thing because after that, I started coaching people as part-time chief marketing director. So everything from small businesses, solopreneurs, they would sit and talk to me, and we get their business plan together, their product, their offerings, their marketing. And then we also think about their life goals, their dreams. And so we sit and do that, but I also build websites. So I'm currently building one on Shopify, one website on WordPress, one on Wix, and one on Go High Level.
Okay.
And so I'm building out where pretty soon, my focus is to connect with people, businesses who have a vision or dream, and turning that into what is their legacy and their operation. So I do marketing, building that out, the graphics, webs, everything. We do that. I'm like a creative, guru with, I love doing all these different styles. So I do that. That's my primary business. Alternatively as well, I'm just finished writing a book, Better Relationships, Better World. It's a guide to conscious relationships and how to heal your relationship with yourself and others. So do the marketing mentorship. And then this element came from my personal life. And that's where moving forward, I'm doing music and retreats, and I'll be doing workshops with it. And it's just because I made this, I do marketing because I love it. I love helping people. I love building. I'm a systems analyst, qualified in Australia. So we sit and talk. I can go really deep and complex and plan it out, but then sit and talk and get it done. So I love that side. That's my bread and butter, my business. But my passion is this new thing of conscious relationship that I learned from, with my parents and with the women who have been blessed to, give me the chance to be their partner and connect. I've learned so much in that time. And so moving forward, that's where my place is, helping entrepreneurs and businesses make marketing easy, making products they love, doing marketing that is really, for lack of a better word, gonna help bring us in a better world that is really value driven based on what really matters to us. And that comes down to really just helping people have somebody to talk to so they can not stress, not freak out, get the clarity, get a vision. And hopefully now with also this book, then I get them in their relationships and the music. So it's like, let's get your wallet going, baby. Let's get your body going. Let's get your head going. Let's get your heart going. Let's get this whole world going, baby.
That's awesome. Well, Ryan and I are definitely going to have a side conversation with you about the marketing part here at some
Yeah,
point.
for sure. That's you piqued my interest with it. And as a man who sits here and talks about problem solving, that is one problem I have not been able to solve yet. So it piqued my interest.
Well, I'm happy to help anybody.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's like the focus I have is, so we have a chat, right? And anybody on this that watches, like, my focus is to be your pathfinder, your friend. So we just have a chat. You get your vision, you get your plan, you get an idea, and then through that, you're in the driver's seat. And whether I work with you or not, that's just the way that I want to get. Is that gives you the power to decide, and through that, that's how I want to, like circling back. Instead of looking behind your back, if you do things that screw people over, I love the opposite. That's what I learned when I was a teen, is if you do things forward and you do kindness for people without expecting it, things come back. And it's better to be go into a room and people are so happy to see you and you're celebrated because you're like, yeah, that problem became a big opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that, like I said, that giving back piece, we take it for granted sometimes of how easy it is to just be nice to somebody. Aaron and I talked a couple weeks ago about like just going into the gas station. It's a convenience store, right? You're just going in to get a drink and you're gonna leave, you're gonna get gas, you're gonna do whatever. But it's like stop for a minute and talk to that person because nobody else has probably done it for the day, and just think of the impact that you have on that person's life. Just saying hello and reading their name tag, for example. Like it's just some small gesture. And, once you get in the habit there, then it just trickles down into so many bigger things. And, I give a lot of credit for you just being, passionate about music and talking about your life story, your ambitions, and the amount of stuff that you've seen, Florida through California to Australia. I mean, it's remarkable. And I can't help but think that I need to go listen to some of those songs this evening and try and see if I can learn anything else that we missed.
I was gonna say you hit on something great, and that's I traveled the world and lived in a lot of places, and I've been in a lot of situations that I could have died, and I will tell you that respect is an appreciation and kindness and just like kind of like it sounds foolish, but those things have saved me. And when I got that corporate job, there was like, oh, I think over I always get the number wrong, but let's say like 5 or 6,000 at least. I think it might have been 10,000. They applied for this job. They only picked 20. Let's say at least 5,000 plus. So just telling you the story. So I was one of 20 that got picked. And what I learned is when I walked in, I was so nice to the girl, the receptionist. I was so nice to everybody. And that's what they picked. Deloitte picked the people that were respectful and kind to everybody there. And whoever was disrespectful was already marked off because they said like that's how they're going to treat a client or somebody else. And like you said, like I tell everybody that like it doesn't matter who it is, you don't know who it is. Like if you're just kind, it sounds foolish, but what's the worst that could happen? You make somebody's day, you make your day. But the opposite, if you're not, like you could, so karma is a real thing.
Yeah, you should treat
Absolutely.
I try and treat everybody, whether they're a janitor or they're a CEO or anything in between. I go through life and I respect everybody. Everybody has, something good to put into this world. And, there's no reason to disrespect someone or talk down on someone just because of where they are in life. Just be uplifting. It's so easy to be mean and it's so easy to be nice. So why not just be nice to everybody? Just be respectful, like you just said, and just have open arms and just go through love and pour out love to everybody. And it just, you put a smile on one person's face, they put a smile on someone else's face, and we just all become so much happier.
Yeah, I had a friend tell me the other day, he's very religious. He's like kindness is prayer in action. Like, we think prayer is what we say to God or spirit or whatever you practice during the day, but no, it's how you treat people around you on a daily basis, because that's really how you're showing if you're grateful, or just if whatever is going out you're putting out there. It's like, just take a step back and take a breath, and it's okay. Like, forgive yourself and clear the energy, because some people just take things out on people, and it's just like, have you taken a step back to see what's coming out? Because, like, if you did that and you could see what's happening, you'd understand that your life, the depression, all these other things can be resolved by simply being kinder to yourself and kinder to the people around you, mate.
Yeah, that you mentioned earlier about just going out and working hard and how medicinal that can be. It's in those
You get
depressive
paid.
moments, go out and say hello. How's your day going? Try and get out of that funk. Like, I've been depressed. I've had depression. I know what that's like, and it's a painful thing. And then to sit there and dwell and act on the depression piece only makes it worse. So when you start acting like a person who's not depressed, and you realize that the depression is oftentimes just a feeling or an emotion, not an actual state of being, I have a very hard time believing that you have to go to, and again, there are some cases, but for the majority of the population that says they're depressed, it's not going to get medication. It's just thinking a little differently. And, if you're depressed and miserable to yourself, you're probably going to be depressed and miserable to everybody else. So you might as well just accept that you have probably a lot going on, even better than most. I mean, there's a couple people out there that are going to be impacted by that, and they have a good reason to. But even then, that forgiveness and giving it to God that we talked about is, I know this situation is out of my control. No matter how hard I try, I can't do it by myself. Whether it be, driving in here, Atlanta area, homelessness is a big deal. And while I can't speak for all of them in that case, I common sense evaluate this, that you're standing in a corner with a whole, sign, help me, I need money. And then right down the road, there's a, looking for hire sign. Just one of those perspectives I've seen and noticed, like, there's always a way. There's always somebody willing to give a chance. And if we just imagine all the places you've been and somebody gave you a chance because of how you treated them or how you acted, how you spoke, what, sharing your vision or dream, somebody's got to click with it at some point.
Yeah, it was funny you say that, because one of the biggest gigs I got in Australia, I was always doing cover gigs, and one of the biggest gigs I got was to open for Marsha Hines over there, and that was like 800 people in a seated auditorium. And I remember it was paid more for me to play in 30 minutes than I was making in like 2 4-hour gigs, so I was really happy. But I got it because the guy next to me, who was gigging all the time next to me, was a really nice guy, and like, I was just, Mark, he was a great guy, and I was always just friends with him. And when the gig came up, he's like, "Give it to Johan. Like, guy needs it. He deserved it." And like, it's just a proven point. Like, it could be really cutthroat, no doubt, in construction, like musician as well. It could be really cutthroat or really collaborative. And some of the biggest gigs and opportunities I've ever gotten, like, I got to open for Satsum and Drew, and these other acts, and they always came from other musicians that I knew that put me up because of that. And I don't know, it's I had a lot of doors closed on me and started my career, and a lot of things didn't pan out. And at the time I was really bitter, but I realized it was all ego. I thought I was talented. I thought the world owed me. I thought things would be easier, or all these other things. And now I sit back and I'm like, I'm so grateful. that doors were closed and I had to work my ass off. And I had this wall with all these stickers and marking how to do publicity and booking tour, like all that stuff. Because, it's the things that extend us beyond what we think is capable is what pulls us out of that funk or depression. And depression's that suppression, like whatever I now have a practice, like when depression comes and I have the emotions, like I feel it, and instead of like suppressing it, I start going, well, there's not that there's something wrong with me. What's right with me? Like, okay, what is coming up with this? And like, can I just sit and then like, what would make me feel a little better right now that I could do that? And like a prime example is I had a practice when I was really depressed, couldn't do anything, smoking way too much weed, just not good. Is from that day, I always made my bed, and that changed my life.
Yes.
Super simple. Just every day I woke up, no excuses. I always started making my bed, and it just set me up that I can do things. And that is what I teach to a lot of people I work with. It's simple, but it's like if you're in a funk and you're depressed, just one little thing at a time. You start adding one little thing at a time every day of things that support you, and just be okay with not being okay. Maybe like you're going through a big transition of who you thought you were, and life is changing. And just take a breath, and whether you find God or spirit or anything, just have that space to be like, okay, well, death is permanent. Whatever I'm going through is transitory. And if I can just find the silver lining or make a new decision or read a new book or try, you could be one conversation, one situation, one decision, one moment away, one call away from something happening that can change your life.
Yes.
But for a miracle to happen, you need to believe that it can happen. So just start there. Les Brown says possible. Change it to it's possible. That's it.
Yeah.
If you're depressed, you're like, I can't do this. It's never going to happen. I can't do this. Just stop and go. It's possible. It's possible I could wake up not in back pain, or it's possible I could do this. And I don't know how, but I'm just going to try a little bit every day. And that's what I would tell people. Like, you need to be here, stay here. Like, just give yourself some more time, and just step by step, piece by piece, you're going to figure out like what really sets your soul on fire and what makes life worth living for you.
Yeah, just stay positive and sorry, Ryan. Be positive and tell yourself you're capable of anything, and anything in this world is capable. I've been doing that for months now. I have it written on my mirror. I am capable of doing anything. I tell myself that every day. And since I've been doing that, the opportunities that have come up, the right people I've met, just all the things that have been falling into place just by changing this little mindset of just believing, like, I don't know what the heck's going to happen. I don't know what the hell my huge plan is. I just take it day by day, and things just keep slowly coming into place. It's just having that positivity and that belief, that faith that things are just going to work out, and just go through life just believing. So too many of us just say shit, think it, terrible day, I'm depressed, blah blah blah. Just try and stay positive and think that good things are going to happen. And once you start thinking good things are going to happen, the good things will happen. They just manifest.
Yeah, and 2 points on that, Aaron, is just, one is good things will happen, and they probably won't happen today. They may not happen tomorrow, and they may not even happen next year. But knowing that timeline is out of your control, and the only thing that you control today brings me to Johan's point of one small thing. Make your bed.
Yes.
Go do something small every day just to say that you can accomplish those things. And I rather than trying to relate to that, I want to share a story of one of the wealthiest men in the world. I'm not going to name drop. We can deduct and find out for yourselves if you want to read into the story. But anyway, the story was that the young man had applied for a job at a very young age. I believe the age was 17, and went to work for a very large construction company, thinking that he was going to get some high-dollar job. And rather than getting some high-dollar job, they said, well, one job we don't have is somebody to empty the trash cans. And somebody needs to empty the trash cans every day in the office. And rather than say, oh, I'm not doing that, or that's dumb, or whatever, they chose to do that job with passion, integrity, and discipline every single day. And now, whatever their worth is today is in the billions, and they own majority of Coca-Cola, if that gives you a hint. But that's the story. That's where that came from. And that person never turned down an opportunity and took everything with a grain of salt, and to this day drives around in a Toyota car and eats a McDonald's sandwich on his way to work.
Yeah.
So there's that being open to every opportunity, whether it be, just talking to somebody at a bar, talking to the person at the gas station, talking to somebody about, wakeboarding in California. We don't have to move to Australia to change our lives. It starts with something very small, but after we acknowledge that small things are big changes, it opens up so much more to life. And Johan, we can't thank you enough for your story. I think we're getting close to running out of time here. I think we're about at an hour.
Yeah.
But this has been incredibly, captivating and definitely appealing to our take on adventure and personal
Yeah, it was a
development.
great chat. Had an absolute blast.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to talk again. This was inspiring, enlightening, and we truly appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah, it's like I got all this wrist that says life is a daring adventure or nothing at all.
Yeah.
And I'll close just real quick because this story changed my life. And I was in my master's degree, and I had an entrepreneur class. And at the school I went to, Bond University, everybody that teaches had to achieve the mastery in their field. And the only reason I'm telling you the story is this European man. When I heard this story, I never thought of it. And the way the story goes, it's a big empty lot. And the reason I'm telling this story is like we're taking small steps, small ideas. Right now, there's people all around us looking for opportunity. So when I heard this story, this man, long story short, so it's a big open lot, and nobody could build on it. Nobody could afford it. So what he decided to do is he started going around to the neighborhood to everybody. He went to the electrician. He went to the plumber. He went to local construction. Went to everybody. He's like, hey, if I built a high rise and you had a place for your family, would you come and build? And so he got every single person he needed and built this massive high rise without any money. And through everybody, built this high rise in a community and a family and created a whole business and became a multi-billionaire. And the reason I heard that story is if there's anybody listening, whatever you're going through, wherever you're at, whether you're at the top or the bottom, just remind yourself that there's people all around you. There's opportunities all around you. And all you need to know is nobody has the unique view that you have of the world. Nobody has the experiences you have. Nobody is you. So don't doubt your worth and your value and what you can do. Just look around, think about it, get some time to pray, whatever it is, to get clarity and see some win-wins. Because whatever happens with the election and government or anything, little economies will help the big economy. And if we can just look around and help each other and support each other, then we can weather the storm, whatever comes together.
Yes.
And just wanted to share that because if I had a message with the world, it would be that we're stronger together and, a rising tide lifts all boats.
I love that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you so much for having faith and coming on and being here with us and having the conversation, being open and authentic. We absolutely love it, and we're so very grateful for you.
An absolute blast, guys. Thank you so much for having me and for all you're doing. And my name is Johan Danno, Joha and Danno. Anybody wants to follow me online, if you watch this, and make sure you support these guys, like, subscribe, follow, and share this thing because they're doing a great job here for everybody. So gotta support our boys.
We cannot thank you enough.
Johan.
Your story is inspiring, and we'll be sure to be talking again. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you guys. Have a good one. Elevate and explore, podcasters.
Thank you, Johan. You have a good night.
Hey, have a good night, Johan. Be safe.
All right, bye.
Thank you.
Well, do you have anything else you want to add before we cut off?
I don't know. I just that as soon as we start talking about Australia, it's like we need an adventure. We need to step out. But it's again, I think the most takeaway there, the one that hit home for me is just nurturing and taking care of relationships, both good, the bad, the ugly. There is no relationship out there that's so bad. There's few relationships out there that
Yes.
somebody would need to separate from. Let me rephrase that. But as far as family relationships, meaningful relationships, and the opportunity for new relationships is to nurture and cherish what we have. I mean, a prime example is, we were, I don't know what, 11 years ago. No,
I think we're at like 13 now.
I was going to say it's like 14 years ago. I was doing math trying to
Yeah.
figure that out. So like 14 years ago, just drunk stumbling around in a basement, I'd met this goofy bearded guy in a flannel shirt just like I was wearing. And, we both, I think, introduced ourselves about 6 times before we actually shared numbers. But to this day, he's one of my best friends. I've had so many job opportunities and so many new friendships and just so much more added to my life from talking to somebody, answering the phone, trying something new, getting out of my comfort zone, and just being accepting of a new opportunity. And I think his story speaks volumes to that. He just happened to meet these guys talking about moving to Australia, and he just got to spend 10 years there.
Taking a freaking chance, knowing nothing about wakeboarding, going to teach wakeboarding, like that's fucking awesome. Like taking a risk.
Right. And to just think about that in the simplest form of day-to-day life, we get stuck in a rut and we're just doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. It's just try something new, even if it's making your bed or whatever, something small, this small change. You're just going to do something different. Take it down to the minute level. I mean, it's try salt and pepper on your food. Try some spicy hot sauce or kind of like there's something out there that you can take a chance on. And once you just try it once, it becomes so fueling and motivational to just try something different. And there's so much out there. This life is short. It is a whiff. In terms of the Bible, I mean, people lived for hundreds and hundreds of years with spirituality on their minds, and they just as equally had struggles and problems and all these things. And in today's life is so fast. We think about where we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It's gone. We don't ever get to do that again. And tomorrow may be the same as today, but there's a small chance that something is going to happen tomorrow that is going to completely alter your space and existence.
Yeah,
And be open to that.
Yeah, I love that. It's all about doing these little things. The little changes lead to big changes. But something I heard a couple weeks ago, I forget where exactly I heard it, but someone told me, try something a little different every day. And it could be as simple as, you go to work. Most people go to work every day. They drive, so they have a route they take. Well, when you go to work tomorrow, or maybe when you come home, you're not in any rush. Take a different route. Maybe it takes you 5-10 minutes longer, but maybe you'll see something and notice something you never saw. And just mixing up our daily routines, we're also stuck in doing pretty much the same thing day in, day out. And we forget to take these little risks that can be so rewarding to us. So just, on your way home from work tomorrow, take a little bit of a different route. See how it feels. See what it makes you think.
No, for sure. I mean, especially, depending on where you're at. I mean, just a mile, 500 yards from that normal path you take, it's going to be like, wow, I never noticed that. Or an opportunity, a job listing. There's just so much out there. And to live so closed-minded that every day has to be the same and there's no hope and there's nothing, live with the idea that everything is possible.
Yes.
Life is limitless as we make it. If we believe there's a limit, we believe there's a capacity that we have to reach, then that's what it is. But there's so much out there.
Yeah. The only reason. What's that?
I said you just have to be willing to want it.
Yeah, and the only reason we can't do something is because we told ourselves we can't do it. So
100%.
when you start telling yourself, I'm capable of doing anything, maybe you're not going to be a freaking massive bodybuilder or this or that, but there's so many things out there that absolutely we can do, but we just have this limiting belief mindset that just keeps us. We're almost scared to take risks and, try things. And, most times we're going to freaking fail, but you never get good at anything unless you fail. You got to be willing to suck at something before you can become good at it. But it all starts with taking that little risk. So take risks, try new things. The world is our oyster, and it's nobody stopping you but other than you.
No, I think that's fantastic. So thank you all for watching another exciting episode of Elevate and Explore. We certainly enjoy and appreciate you. We enjoy doing this, and we appreciate you for listening and watching. And by all means, if you've got any comments or suggestions or feedback, please feel free to send those over to us. And we look forward to next week.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. You all have a great night, great day, whatever it is when you're listening. But life is good. Enjoy it. Take that risk. See ya.
Thanks all.